We're now going to listen to an interview. Earlier in the week, I had the opportunity to catch up with Robin Ferris, who's the founder of Bankuet, the online food bank, as well as Patrick Harding, who's the founder of Joy, a startup helping identify and serve isolated elderly folk. Both of these individuals, remarkable entrepreneurs that God has lifted up, raised up for such a time as this. So this is the interview from earlier in the week. Briefly, Robin, tell us about your startup company called Bankuet. What does it do? What does it exist for?
Okay, hi Pete. So Bankuet is a new way that's tech-based that gets food to people that need it. Our vision is to get food banks what they need, when they need it, and to make it easier for you to give.
And just explain a bit more of that then. So some of us would have heard the stories of food banks being oversupplied with certain stuff and undersupplied on certain stuff. Bankuet helps remedy that, right?
One of the key problems that a food bank faces is oversupply of certain things. So commonly pasta and baked beans throughout the year, and at seasons like Christmas, they get given loads of mince pies. So Bankuet is a zero waste donation platform. You can only buy a thing for a food bank that they've specifically asked for, and we ship that at a slot that they've specifically chosen.
Amazing. Patrick, then tell us about Joy.
Yeah, we're focused on ending loneliness and isolation amongst the most vulnerable groups of people in society. These are the kind of people who, when they get a postcard through the door offering support and companionship, they don't respond, yet they need it. And our view is for them, and our vision for them is for them to thrive, to wake up every single day with something to look forward to, not just to survive, but thrive and to really experience the fullness of life.
Amazing. When I think of you guys and what you're doing right now, I kind of think of Noah, who was asked to build the ark before the flood came. Now, you guys started something that was a great idea at the time, but obviously we find ourselves now in this global crisis. And I kind of think that what God put on your heart is for such a time as this. And both your charities are going through significant growth and challenges right now to try and meet the need of society around us. Just tell us about Bankuet, the response in the last few weeks to what's happening all around us.
It's been phenomenal. So we've seen donations increase month on month by over 4,000%. I'm not joking. I had to sort out my inbox last week because we're receiving so many donations from people all across the country. It's absolutely incredible.
And what are the challenges for you then of that level of growth? That's crazy growth.
Yes, it's phenomenal. In some ways, Bankuet has always been positioned for this moment. I think in a pitch deck about 2 years ago, I'd written post-Grenfell, if there was a national emergency, Bankuet might be able to help. And now we find ourselves in that position. In some ways, it's always been what it's been designed to do, but we're very, very light on resource. It's just me as the main full-time person and some volunteers who have been quickly brought in to help us to respond. But in some ways, this is the moment I think God might have had planned all along. And we find ourselves in a position strategically to respond to what you're seeing in the headlines every day.
Yeah. And Patrick, then again, tell us about your response to this huge crisis, particularly amongst the elderly and the most vulnerable.
If I'm completely honest, it's been tough.
Yeah.
So we built this platform as a really remarkable thing that sits in between the NHS and adult social care in one part of the country and connects those people to the people who are running services like charities and churches. And over the last 6 months, we've been working with that sector to make sure it meets all of their various different needs. And right at the point where we've actually populated it and we've got all the users on board, we've now had this coronavirus. Boris Johnson said, you can't leave your home, older people. And it's a bit like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and where you have things like Bankuet at the bottom of the needs, like those most immediate needs, that's where everyone's heads and attention has been focused on. It's can we get them food and prescriptions delivered to those folks who can't get out of the home. And so all of the services that we've put on, they are now having to take things down because there is no capacity in the charity sector to actually run services that actually help with things like mental health and physical health. Now, that has happened right at the moment when those types of problems are going to mount up and get worse and worse and worse. And so tangibly speaking, what does that look like, right? So we have got, if you're very vulnerable, you've been told to stay at home for 12 weeks. So that's 12 weeks now without meaningful human contact. It's going to look like more crises around depression, more problems around falls in the home, frailty. People are going to be sat at home watching TV, their main form of companionship, for 12 weeks. In 12 weeks' time, when you're allowed out of the home, you won't be able to walk as far. You won't be as steady on your feet. You're going to become more paranoid and more scared and more defensive around other people, because that is what loneliness does to you. So I'm going to be honest, that I sort of approach this place is from a bit of a vulnerable spot, in which the plans that we had have now been flipped. The need for loneliness and interventions that help address that is massive, but the demand is up, but the supply is gone. It's a bit like trying to run Bankuet with no food banks to give to.
Yeah.
I'm considering whether or not God is sort of laying on me the challenge, and maybe a challenge for us as KXC, to kind of go, your job isn't necessarily just to be the middleman, but maybe you now need to sort of show some leadership and actually fill that vacuum of supply. Like how can we activate the church, say, to actually be delivering the interventions and the virtual remedies to problems of loneliness, mental health, or physical well-being for those folks who are going to be trapped at home because what used to exist isn't there anymore. I'm faced with, it's a hard challenge, right? Because I can see that there's a bigger need and there's less of a supply.
Yeah, huge. And so to both of you, I'll start with you, Patrick. Like, how can we serve you right now? You've explained that demand is like sky high, of doing virtual things that kind of like connect people and give them exercise and other things, but supply is like completely dropped. How do we serve and pray for you in this time?
Yeah, I think the prayer for me is just one of or two of like faith and joy for myself as well. So faith in that it's really uncharted times, and to be running a startup in this moment and to see all your supply disappear is actually quite terrifying to be doing that, even though there's a massive need that you're trying to fill. It is I feel like it's really hard. Like the joy element as well for me is because it's actually incredibly stressful at the moment. It's that keeping you up at night type thing. And I think my natural and these two sort of manifest in itself, in that I feel like a heavy responsibility to fill that supply gap all by myself, and I'm trying to snatch and strive. That's my innate temptation, is to go, there's a problem, I'll fix it. And I think what I really want to do is almost create a bit of space and let God intervene here, because I can't replace the work. Like, we had 150 activities on there for older people. I can't run 150 things myself. And so it's about creating some space, because God clearly has got some sort of plan here. It's not exactly clear to me what it is tangibly. And so a bit of faith that I can let him work rather than just sort of striving to try and firefight and do it all myself. And having a joy in this moment now for me as well would be good, because I feel like I can't spread joy unless me and the team who work with me have got that themselves.
And same question then to you, Robin. Like, how, if people want to pray for Bankuet, but more than that, serve, what can they actually do?
Yeah, firstly, it'd be obviously to pray specifically. My need is being slightly overwhelmed with all the stuff like running at me. Donations come in, and on another hand, amazing people stepping forward to want to help. That would be for me the wisdom to like steward that and manage that well. I had this picture in my mind. I went away with some friends from my pattern group a couple of weeks ago. Had this thing in my mind of like dominoes, not pizza, but dominoes the game. Why am I thinking about all these dominoes? Now is that moment. Got placed this thing in my mind. The dominoes that need to come together pretty quickly are loads of amazing people on one side, loads of logistics, loads of business stuff, and then we can really hit it. So for me, sitting in the middle of everything, having the maturity and the wisdom to actually execute that. If you want to help, thank you to everyone who's got in touch. We've got so many people wanting to help. It's had to bring someone in to deal with that. It's just overwhelming, and to receive that is just crazy. So if you want to volunteer, you can go to bankuet.co.uk/volunteer. Anything that's on your heart, any ideas, that would be amazing, because it's moving at such a pace that we could miss something that's amazing. Bankuet is staying in its lane. It's about getting food to people that need it. However, I'm fielding calls every day about loads of other things that could happen. So if you've got an idea, please go through that channel and then we'll come back to you.
And with the 30 seconds remaining, Patrick, for those that want to find out more about Explore Joy, where do we direct them?
Yeah, the URL is explorejoy.co.uk. There's a button on the top which says volunteer, and that will take you to a form which is specifically for people who might be able to help me step up now to actually start addressing that problem of loneliness directly, offering services that will help those many people who are trapped in their own homes for at least 12 weeks.
Amazing. Thank you so much, guys. Isn't it amazing what those guys and many others are doing right now to serve those that are most vulnerable at this time? It's extraordinary.